Lou Reed concerts, sex, drugs, and rock and roll? Now listen to the Beatles and their version.
Relax and float downstream. It is not dying. It is not dying. Lay down all thoughts, surrender to the void. It is shining.
Now let me say one thing clear. Some of these lyrics were taken out of the Acid Bible written by Timothy Leary. Rock and rollers take a stand against drugs, but at the same time, they sing about it. So what good are they really doing for our children?
Sometimes you tell the day by the bottle that you drink.
Now Sam Kinison says it's like Christians against Christ. Rock created drugs. Now friends, who do you think's getting the last laugh here? Or the better laugh? The devil or the Lord?
I've waited so long, baby, now that we're friends. And the man's got his patience, and here's where mine ends. I want your sex.
Now my friends, it's ironic that my wife just mentioned to me that drinking alcohol and drunkenness leads to unfaithfulness and immoral acts of sexuality. Well, what's wrong with sex outside of marriage? Plenty. First of all, God doesn't want you to do it. In Galatians chapter 5, it's called fornication. There's a good reason why. God doesn't want to see you get hurt. How are you going to feel when your bride comes down the aisle and she's had sex with several men? Or had sex with several girls in society today, which is not uncommon. Friends, animals don't act the way they do on some of these videos. Sex outside of marriage leads to disease and abortion. Now guys that will have sex with a young girl don't consider the consequence. This girl who's in school can no longer stay in school and surely brings shame to her parents. Well, today it's not sex outside of marriage, it's sex with demons or with spirits.
Fast food, everything is nostalgia. Humble pie on bitter fruit.
Now my friends, what we saw there is Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Something that you hear in your car when you're watching the radio. The inner sleeve shows animals marching 2 by 2 into what appears to be the Ark of Noah, but instead it's a man's reproductive organ. Now I can't stress it enough, friends. You're either on the Lord's side or you're on the devil's side. There's no in between. You're either consorting with the enemy or consorting with the Lord. How is the devil again going to try to deceive you? Through violence. Now rock and roll is a pure aggressive art form, says Blackie Lawless. When the devil was a musician in heaven, he caused violence in heaven, rebellion. But the Bible says rebellion is the same thing as witchcraft. So don't be surprised when Christ told you that in the end days it would be just like it was in the days of Noah. You see, in the days of Noah, God flooded the world because the earth was filled with violence. And now, in the end days, again we see anarchy and violence. People doing what they want to do. The belly.
Bad to the bone.
And that's what rock and roll ought to be. The kids ought to come up and just hit you right in the face. I don't mean breaking noses, but I mean with what it is they have to say and dressing different so that adults are going, oh, God, yeah, that's it, you know. Make them throw up.
Now one thing's clear, when Christ said that it would be just as it was in the day of Noah, in the last days, and that is violence, that's exactly what we see in rock and roll music. Is there a connection with the rebellion and the violence that Satan caused in his midst when he was in heaven? A musician? And now he's called the ruler of this world? Surely there is. Now, in going to the concert called Live Aid, it was Michael Jackson who said that the song was divinely inspired, and we should feed the children like Christ changed the stone into bread. But you see, my friends, if the song was divinely inspired, who inspired him, God or the devil? That's one of the miracles that Jesus wouldn't do when he was tempted by the devil. That is, change the stone into bread. He replied to the devil by saying, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. So what's going on in rock and roll today? Rebellion and violence. And not only rebellion and violence, but satanic symbols are being used, such as the pentagram, associating rock and roll with the devil. Now watch this. One thing's clear. This kind of behavior was unknown to your great-grandparents and even your grandparents. So could this be a fulfillment of the prophecy that there would come a generation of rebellious children? You might be asking yourself, what on earth is this new sign with the fingers that we're seeing in rock and roll? Well, here's Anton LaVey, who wrote the Satanic Bible, and he does this sign. It's a Sicilian sign to the horned hunter, the devil, found as the cornuto sign in the Satanic Bible. Many rockers are doing this sign, and they use it as a symbol to mean long live rock and roll. Or do they? Now, just as the pentagram is found in secular rock and roll today, we find the cornuto sign used by many rock stars today. Well, one thing's clear. Remember, Jesus said, he that does not gather with me is scattering abroad. In other words, you're either at his table or the devil's table. Who are we consorting when we see people signing what is known as the cornuto? Now, is it long live rock and roll? Dio was the one who helped promote this sign with a flashing devil in the background. Chris de Burgh on Spanish Train kind of reconciles the devil with Christ. The palm hand of Christ with the nail print with the cornuto sign. Well, we know that sooner or later the coming Antichrist is coming. That is a one-world political leader who is actually an incarnation of the devil. You know, 666 and that. Well, bands are now singing about him. Now, my friends, we know that the Bible told us that Christ would soon come someday, born of a virgin. Prophecy, and it was fulfilled. The Bible has prophetically told us that there's coming a one-world political ruler who's going to come out with the mark of the beast 666, and he will come just as Christ has. Many bands are using this symbol. So what is this doing for society? It's kind of letting us know and getting us used to the fact that he's coming.
Examine self-styled Satanists like Ricky Casso. Often they're teenagers who learn that the message of Satanism is for sale right in the neighborhood. This shopping